Welcome to the SBAC Test Administrator interface. Currently we're looking at the Practice Test Administrator interface, but it looks exactly like the real Test Administrator interface. As you can see, I have a test session going right now. In the upper part of the screen, you can see a very large session ID number. This is the ID number that students need in order to log in to my test. This stop sign would stop the session and pause tests for all students. As you can see, I can take a look right here, clicking on Select Tests, and see which test I'm giving. And if I need to add another test in the middle of this session because a student has come in and needs to take a different test, I can add that right now. This button on the side with the little arrows in a circle will refresh my screen, and that's really helpful because the screen is actually constantly refreshing about every 10 seconds, but if I want it to refresh sooner than that, I can click that button. What that's going to do is show me the current status of all of my students who are logged into my session when you look down here at the student status screen. You'll notice that you see a name for each student, the opportunity number for this test. Especially on the interim assessment, students can take those tests multiple times. So if this is the student's second time taking this particular test, you would see a 2 right there. This tells you what test the student is working on. If they have any special requests, some students have special accommodations which allow them to print some content, but they have to put that request in through here and you would print the pages. In the student status column, you get to see whether a test is paused or started. If the test is paused, it means the student is logged out of the system and they would need to log back in order to resume their test. If it says started, it's going to give you an indicator of where the student is in terms of how many questions they've answered out of how many total in the test. Under test settings, it will say standard or custom. You can click on the little eyeball next to settings and you can see what the student test settings are and what accommodations they may need during the test. And finally, the pause test button. So as you can see, the student's test is paused, so I don't have an option here. But if I wanted to pause an individual student's test, I would just click on the pause button next to their name. It'll give me a little warning about the pause rule, knowing that as long as the pause is less than 20 minutes long, the student can still go back and edit any content in their test from this session. But if the pause is longer than 20 minutes, the student won't be able to go back once they log in again and change any of the questions that they've already answered. They will only be able to move forward in the test. As you can see here, I always need to look up at my approvals button. If there's a number within the red circle, it means that there's at least one student, or it will tell me how many students are waiting to enter this session. So I need to click on the approvals button, check out the student information, and allow them to enter the session. Now that you know about the basic anatomy of the Test Administrator interface, I want to draw your attention to the options at the top of the screen. The first one on the upper right is to log out. That's really important to log out of this interface when you're finished with the test. If you click on Alerts, it's going to give you any special information that may be coming from Smarter Balanced or CASP about testing. The help guide is really actually very helpful. You can scroll down or up in this and learn a little bit about the Test Administrator interface, and you can actually look up information about something that you may be confused or needing to know how to do. So for example, if I click on information on how to look up students, it's going to take me to a page that will instruct me how to look up students within the Test Administrator interface. So this help guide is a really handy thing to have and helps you to be very self-sufficient when you're using the Test Administrator interface. The next thing we're going to look at is the Print Session button. If we click on it, it's going to just pull up the print options page. What this is going to do is actually print a screenshot of what's on my page right now. This can be really helpful once you've ended a testing session and you just want a record of who was in your testing session and how far they got and what their status was when you ended the testing session, so that you can take a look at it and have that record the next time you open up a test. I'm going to skip the Approved Request button because it's not something that you'll ever have to use, but Student Lookup can be pretty handy. So if you click on Student Lookup, it brings you to the Quick Search page. The Quick Search page allows you to look up students by SSID number. If you want further options, go ahead and click on the Advanced tab. Once the page loads, you'll need to go in and first select your district and then your school. Now you can go in and enter a name, click Search, and you'll see anyone who meets your search criteria. This is what's really helpful here. You can see what CASP thinks the student's SSID is and also their first name. If perhaps this information is incorrect on their login card or they're not getting it quite right, you can confirm that this is the login information that they need to use in order to enter the test. Well, that's about it for the test administrator interface. It's pretty easy to use and I think you'll enjoy it.